Welcome to Success Today with Jack Canfield. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and I have a wonderful guest today, Michelle Reinglass, who is an expert and she knows so much about balance, staying in balance, getting out of balance. We're going to talk about that. Everyone says, I want a more balanced life. Don't know how to achieve that. She does. Let's learn from her today. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you much. It's so great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. So before we get into exactly what you're doing now, give us just a little bit of background of how maybe where you came from that got you to where you are now.
I will start with just that I was living most of my adult life in an out of balance state and didn't understand that. I just knew that things were off. And it probably ties back to even when I was a kid. I was always a goal achiever. I just was into goals I was looking at careers when I'm 8 years old.
Really?
Yes, crazy stuff. And I don't know why. And I wanted to be this person. I'm going to do this when I grow up. I mean, every time I learned of a new career. So I was just always goal oriented and constantly chasing that. In fact, I even sent articles to Teen Magazine when I was a tween. So I was too young, but they rejected me. I got my first 2 rejections.
Oh, that's wild. I love it. I love it.
So, just always was doing things. And I think it sort of bled into what continued. My father worked really hard in his work. And so that was a role model,
Right.
So it was just one of those things where I didn't understand what balance was. I wasn't even understanding anything. I just knew I felt off and overwhelmed and just a lot of different things.
So talk about the event or time. Here you are, you're out of balance, and you realize you're kind of a workaholic, achiever, perfectionist, probably all that good stuff. I can relate.
Yep.
So what was it that drove you from that into this focus and career, focusing on balance and helping people find that?
I'll say that I can refer to myself as a reformed lawyer turned mediator. I was always busy, always too busy for, lots of different events, and I told my whole family, told all my friends, now that I'm a mediator, I'm going to be more available to everybody. I control my schedule. And, and then it didn't work. And so people were telling me, Michelle, what's going on? And it was that finally realizing I didn't change it. So I've been doing the outside jobs and not doing the inside jobs that I needed to do.
What did you then do? Now you're aware of this. What were your next steps? I'm curious.
Let me just say, I was a yes girl. I was a yes person. That was one of my biggest mistakes. If I were to give a takeaway to this part of this, I would like to say, learn to say no more. Learn the power of no, because that is really important. And, so it took me a long time to stop and actually measure.
Was it hard to learn to say no? And what was it that actually got you to make the shift?
We as human beings, we want to please people. We want to do things and be nice. Even if we're not nice, we just, one way or another, we want to appear nice. Nobody wants to tell somebody no. Nobody wants to turn somebody down. And so finally, I started practicing. I had implemented that when people ask me for things, I tell them, you know what, let me look at my calendar and get back to you.
Giving us that space to be able to,
because I can't trust myself.
Right.
Even to this day, I cannot trust myself.
Yeah.
I wish it came naturally.
I used to have to write no in magic marker on my calendar when I still had paper calendars. So when I'd look at the date, it would say no to remind me that was an option. I've gotten very good at it, but it took a while to do that. What would be a couple other key points you would like people to take away from this in terms of like creating more balance or not letting yourself slide into imbalance?
For balance, I want people to understand it does exist. It really, really does exist. And it exists when you know how to use it. I'll just say I was a lawyer and there were days I'm in trial. Nobody was going to get me, or have a part of me while I'm in trial. So if you're in a relationship, that has to be understood. What balance really is alignment. It's being aligned with your values, because if you have somebody who's just really needy, for example, and just can't understand if they don't have you all the time, that's not going to work really easily, without some concessions, being done.
So it's about a little education in the relationship.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So balance is really important, and there's a lot of ways to do it. I talk about, meditations, movement, taking care of your body, all those different things. doing them on a regular basis and setting for yourself a ritual that works, and being able to say, this morning, every morning, I want to do these 1 or 2 or 3 things. If you overwhelm yourself, you're not going to do them, and then you get yourself out of balance if you're kicking yourself.
So part of it is scheduling things.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a routine, a habit, if you will.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're making me also aware of is not just like relationship and work. There's many aspects of ourself, like exercise, meditation, having fun. Those all need your attention as well, not just your work, your family, and there's also you.
Mm-hmm.
That's most people don't take that into consideration, what they need, So it's very important as well.
I just had a conversation with one of my clients, real talented woman. She's already got her MBA and she's working on her PhD. And so I asked what the topic is, and she wasn't sure. And so finally I said, what is it you want to accomplish with this degree? Oh my goodness, she opened up. She was talking about this and that and all these different things and everything. And so I let her finish the entire conversation. And finally I said, that's what you're going to do. And she just looked at me like, so
Right.
it's not me doing anything magical. It's I get to be there, and witness these types of things.
That's great.
One case that stands out forever in my mind is it was a woman who was African American, and it was a discrimination case. And I normally can connect with people. I really had a hard time connecting with her. She didn't trust anything or anybody. And her lawyer was getting frustrated with her because it was hard for her to manage the client. We get to about 11:30 that night. And I said, you guys, we're going to have to move this along. This is the best we can do, this best I can get you. I'm sorry, but this, you have to make a decision. So I let them talk. And then finally the lawyer said, she'll do it. So I'm outside and she comes out. And as we acknowledge each other, all of a sudden she said, are we done? And I said, done in what way? I mean, the case? She goes, yes. Yes, you're done. Then she says, I mean, like, completely done? I said, completely done. And I'm going to try not to cry. She said, I don't have to see those people anymore. I said, you'll never see them again. And finally she said, do I have to do anything? I said, no, you are free. And all of a sudden, this woman threw her arms around me and was just hugging me as tight as she could and sobbing. And of course, I was sobbing, which is why I starting to sob myself. But anyway, it was those kind of things I get almost every day in some fashion, maybe not that epic, or that big, but to just, and again, it's not me that got through to her. It was just her going through the process and seeing, what happened and realizing for the first time she was free.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I get that in your mediation work and also in your work with balance, because I know you've written a book about this and dealing with journals and all kinds of things that you're doing. But it all fits together. Literally what you're doing is I love it. So if people want to reach you, and I know you both are a mediator, you're dealing with the balancing work, you've got the book you're doing, you've got other things you do. How do they find you?
Best way is my website, and that's www.michellereinglass.com. And what people can do is they can get on my mailing list when each of these books is, well, the one that's ready to launch, we don't have a date yet, it's in a couple months. But, they got that information as well as when my book is finally finished.
People need what you have to share, because we live in an out of balanced world. Everyone's like freaked out, overamped, overwhelmed, underhappy, all that good stuff. So you found some of that balance in your own life, and you found a way to share it with people in a way that they can actually integrate it. And as we said, schedule it, go through the resistance to it. You've been there, done that. You've climbed that mountain. You can show other people how to do it. So thank you very much for being you, the work you do, which I love your energy. I'm glad you shared that last story. We got to see your heart at a really beautiful
Sorry
level.
about that.
So thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
You're wonderful.
Well, thank you for tuning in today too, and make sure you visit her website. If you're like most people, you're not experiencing the balance, the joy and the happiness and the freedom you want, the peace, all of that good stuff. So here's a resource that can help you. Make sure you do that. See you next time.